Well, it seems as if Astro, the sound peripheral company that I absolutely adore, has been the ones to finally pave the way for external sound for the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. Now, we know from Microsoft that the Xbox Series X will not have an optical cable. We were unclear as to whether or not PlayStation 5 would, because we have yet to see the back of the box, believe it or not. But based on what Astro has been reporting in an article that was published by Destructoid yesterday, it would appear as if they will not be supporting an optical cable either. Now, if you're like me and you have an Astro MixAmp, this is going to cause a little bit of a problem. So right now, how the Astro MixAmp works is on the input side, you have a couple different ports. You have an optical port, which is used for your sound, obviously via an optical cable, but you also have this USB port as well. Now on the console variant, the USB port is used solely for microphone audio. And in a previous video that I did, you may recall, I talked about how you could still use this MixAmp for your PlayStation 4, but instead of plugging in the USB to your PlayStation 4, you could plug it into a laptop or a tablet, run the Xbox Companion app, and you were able to use your microphone for audio on the Xbox side. If you're like me and you have friends that are scattered across both platforms, it actually makes a lot of sense, although it's kind of silly to look at on paper and even sillier to execute because you have laptops and cords and everything all over the place. However, on the PC side of things, the optical port is not used at all. On the PC side of things, it only uses the USB, and that is the only way as well via the PC is how you're going to upload new sound profiles onto here, how you're going to update the firmware on here. So it's odd to me that Astro via the MixAmp decided that they needed this optical port for audio when very clearly it can be utilized in that on the PC side. I digress. The point is, right now, if you have a brand new console and you're going to be getting a PlayStation 5, good luck when they come out, or an Xbox Series X, you're going to have a couple variants of how you're going to connect your audio. So here I have my standard Astro headset that I've been using now for a little over a year. I love this thing, and it is my absolute favorite thing on the planet in terms of console audio. And it uses a standard 3.5mm cable. Now, if you're using an Xbox, kneel down here. If you're using an Xbox controller, you know that Microsoft has made a commitment to say that all hardware would carry over to the next generation. So it is as simple as MixAmp or not, the bottom of your Xbox controller has a port. You just plug this right in, boop, and you're good to go. And that's how it's worked on the Xbox One, the Xbox One S, the Xbox One X, and it will also work this exact same way on the Xbox Series X. Now that's again if you don't have a MixAmp. I'll get to the MixAmp part in a second. Now if you're using a DualShock 4 controller, you have the same thing on the bottom here. You have the 3.5mm jack. You just go ahead and plug that sucker in, you're good to go. Now on the new PlayStation controller, the DualSense, and on the revised Xbox One X controller that includes the share button, they will also still have this same jack. So if you have a standard, tried and true wired headset without a MixAmp, you're fine. Nothing is going to change for you. But what about people like me who rely on this and love everything about this functionality? Well, we're going to have to get a little more creative. And Astro has announced that they're going to be selling independently. If you already bought this, obviously I don't have it. I'd show it to you. Independently, they are going to be selling an HDMI splitter. And the HDMI splitter will, just as the normal HDMI cable works now, broadcast the picture and the sound data from your TV, from your console to your TV. And this is true of either console, okay? Either console will do this. However, if you want to have a MixAmp, they will sell you for $40 or $25 if you have a proof of purchase. So I think it's the barcode either on the MixAmp or on the headset. I'm not entirely sure, but some way to prove that you actually are an owner of a piece of hardware. You can get it for a little bit cheaper, for $25. they're going to be selling an HDMI splitter, which the HDMI will plug in the back of your console as normal, but on the other end, we'll have two outputs, one HDMI that connects up to the television, and one optical cable, which plugs in the back of this. That is the way they found to get around to still utilize the Mixamp. It's incredibly bizarre to me that they cannot figure out a way to use the USB port just like it's used in a PC. And there have been talks, this is still yet to be confirmed, and if I am wrong, please comment below, and you guys love to tell me when I'm wrong, so I guess I don't need to remind you of that. But there's been talks that Xbox may have found a way to bypass that cable I was mentioning and just have this plug directly into your Xbox Series X console, which really makes a lot of sense, considering that the Xbox is supposed to be modeled off of a PC. Obviously, a PC can do pretty much anything you want on it. Now, the PlayStation, they have been very clear, no, that is not going to happen. You're going to need to actually go out and procure this special cable and this adapter piece to get the sound to work. Now, I love my Mixamp, and I'm really bummed out that, you know, I bought it so late in the generation. I bought it after Days Gone had come out, just to give you an idea kind of when I finally decided to pick this up. I got it on Black Friday for $150 with both the headset and the Mixamp. If you're curious about my thoughts on that, I just do a search on my channel. I've got a really long deep dive unboxing video and showing you how to set it up and all the different sound profiles and everything. It's radically changed my gameplay in Call of Duty. It's radically changed my gameplay in pretty much any game I played. It is my absolute #1 way to enjoy anything on my PlayStation, whether it be videos, whether it be music, or whether it be PlayStation games themselves. I love it. So I'm sad to say that maybe this is gonna go. I don't know how I feel about this new adapter. I don't care about the money part. That's not important to me. The performance is where I get a little bit concerned. Now, Astro has been very clear, look, we are going to get this Dolby certified. It's gonna have 0 latency. It's gonna be basically transparent to the end user, but you and I both know that's not true. And it's gonna introduce some sort of latency. It has to, just by the law of electronics and how signals are transferred and how electrons move and all that wonderful stuff. And I'm not gonna bore you with all the technobabble because I do have a degree in that. I could explain it. I will say though that that's impossible. There will be a loss. Now, will it be negligible? Most likely. Most likely you probably won't notice anything. But recall when we started to see the upgrade to higher quality surround systems, you saw games introduce in the game built-in latency. Most notably in Rock Band. You may have noticed if you had Rock Band when it first came out, you actually had to calibrate the game, and they wanted you to play it for a while because it was not always directly one-to-one in terms of what you see and what you heard. And the Mixamp has always been a very good, clear pass-through device. I love the functionality of this bottom part here where you can adjust between the game audio and the audio of your voice. Now you can do that inside the HUD very easily of the Xbox One console. PlayStation is a little bit more difficult to navigate to. Xbox, it's very easy to just drag the slider and you're done. I do appreciate that from Microsoft. I wish PlayStation would catch up. They haven't yet. But I love that. I love that it has 4 sound profiles instantly ready to go. I love that you can turn Dolby on and off with a single button because some games don't play well with Dolby. Some of those legacy games don't seem to play too well and you get that echoey, tinny noise. Very easy to turn on and off. And I have different profiles for different games. It's a cinch. So it's hard for me to say to let this go, but I feel like this is almost a way of PlayStation and kind of to a larger extent Microsoft doing something similar to what we saw Apple do when they decided to get rid of their 3.5mm jack. Now, this is optical, I understand. I'm not comparing apples to apples here. But we found out shortly thereafter that Apple had invested and eventually acquired the rights to Beats, and they were promoting the wireless variant of headsets. And coincidentally, wouldn't you know it, PlayStation 5 at launch is going to be selling the Pulse 3D headset, which will work out of the box. So keep that in mind. I've always been a wired guy. I will most likely figure out a way to continue to use this on my console. Maybe they'll come out with a newer model that totally bypasses the optical port and I'll be able to just get a regular Mixamp, and maybe this will just defer to my PC downstairs. But either way, keep all this in mind as you think about your next audio purchase. Think about how you want to future-proof yourself so you don't have to worry with additional plugins and dongles and connections and latency, because ultimately if you're paying $150 for sound, you want it to sound crystal clear. And you guys know as well as I do, the more stuff you plug in the chain, the worse it's going to be. Sound off below. Let me know your thoughts on the news regarding the Astro and the Xbox One and the PlayStation 5, all what's going on here. Hope this video made some sense for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.